The University of Utah has completed their first spring scrimmage. Let's break it down.
The team completed its first spring scrimmage this Saturday. I thought it'd be good just to kind of jump in and talk about some of the highlights and some of the things that we noticed. And obviously we weren't there. The press was there to observe it. And there's a few interviews and stuff like that I'd like to kind of cover. So we'd love to hear it. So who's your first standout when it comes to first spring scrimmage?
And I obviously wasn't there. So you're just kind of going off some of the players that were, noted from the media availabilities. But I mean, it's looking like Logan and Spencer Fauna were going to be, just forces returning this year, which is great to hear. Obviously, one's an offensive lineman, one of them's a defensive lineman. These guys are monsters. They're going to be a huge part of this program moving forward. And both these guys are potential NFL. This could be their last season with both of these guys. I think one of them is a little bit older, so I think one of them might have one more year. But it's going to be huge to continue to contribute for both of these guys moving forward.
Yeah, so the player I want to highlight is going to be a Bird Ficklin. Bird Ficklin.
Yeah.
He completed several consecutive passes in this spring scrimmage. He actually had a couple of first downs running the ball himself, which is always great. He had a couple of great drives. Steve Bardell of KSL Sports was at the scrimmage, and he noted that Bird was a lefty in the same mold as Dampier, showing promise as an athlete and a passer for the first time on the field, which is fantastic to hear. I know we haven't gotten to see this guy, Devin Dampier, under center for the University of Utah yet, but with his track record and like you mentioned, being the top in offense last year.
They were number 4
in offense. Yeah. Saying that we have somebody like Bird that's kind of in the same mold, but he's a lefty, and obviously who doesn't love a lefty, right? So that's always important to see. So glad to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another player that I'm really excited for. He didn't have a great, first offensive spring scrimmage, but it's going to be Wayshawn Parker.
Okay,
for sure. I mean, this guy. I mean, it's kind of noted in that article. He had a few good gains. Had some tough running, good vision. This guy is going to be a stud. I think he's going to turn out to be running back 1. He's going to get the majority of the carries. He had a great freshman year at Washington State. He came over with his running back coach, Wayshawn Parker. I can't say enough about him. This guy's going to be exciting, and he's going to give Devin Dampier that option, that true running back option when he's back there. And he's also done a great job in pass protection. So he's going to be a huge player, and I'm excited for him.
Yeah, no, I think not exactly the best spring game for him, but like you mentioned, the talent's there. You know, so it's not like it's going to be an all or nothing there. The other player I'd like to mention that's coming out of the spring scrimmage game is actually going to be Nate Johnson. The reason why I wanted to highlight him is just the different ways. You and I have actually kind of already talked about this a little bit, and we're kind of predicting his use case for this season is that he's going to be used in a bunch of different ways. He caught some passes. He took some handoffs with Hunter Andrews. And also took a few snaps as well under center. As we mentioned on a former episode of the show, we're going to plan on using him as a QB. Basically, in that role, he's going to be break the glass in case of emergency type situation. If he's under center, that means we've had a few injuries, or we're having a specific situation where we feel like he's going to be the best option when it comes to that. But sometimes that's just, the depth you need to have at that position, especially with this team over the last few years. It's good to see that they're getting early looks at him, not only, taking some handoffs, doing some short catches, and also running the ball. So it's been good to see him in that space, basically.
Nate Johnson, and we said this before, but he's the Swiss Army knife player for this offense. And I am not going to be surprised if you see Nate Johnson in some formations and take a snap and him rear back and throw the ball. Because the fact is Nate Johnson can throw the ball down the field. Mm-hmm. I mean, he didn't have any issues. I mean, I think back to that game against Baylor where he came into a game late where the Utes really needed a win. He made a couple really good passes in the middle of the field, which is typically not something that a Kyle Whittingham offense puts his quarterbacks that he doesn't trust in a position to throw, but he made some good on-time, on-target throws that moved the offense down the field. And I think we will see that moving on, where you see Nate Johnson take some snaps where they're like, oh, it's not Devin Dampier in the behind center. Take a snap and he'll just rear back and throw the ball. It's going to be a really fun year for Utah offense, because with Nate Johnson back there, he could line up anywhere and really do just about anything.
Yeah, I definitely see a bunch of play action type plays being run, especially what, like you mentioned, he wouldn't even have to be the one under center. It could be, it could be Devin Dampier, and it could be, just a lateral throw, and then he just bombs it down.
Yeah,
I could see that happen, because he's got the arm for it. We've definitely seen it.
Well, and he has elite speed too. I mean, this dude runs a 4.40. He is crazy fast. Nate Johnson can absolutely burn it up. He's faster than Devin Dampier, and Devin Dampier is a very athletic player. But Nate Johnson gets the ball. I mean, he's just one of those guys. You get the ball in his hands, and he makes plays. Just get it to him, right? And as long as he can stay healthy and stay on the field, he's going to be a weapon for this Utah offense.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the rest of the spring scrimmage to see what news comes out in regards to our, the Utah football team, and kind of seeing how the depth chart shakes out. Where you are still in the middle of a portal period,
absolutely,
as they say. So we'll see what shakes out from that and see what comes of that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. It should be great. Lots of content to get into between now and when fall camp opens. So can't wait. It's gonna be fun. Yep. We want to hear from you folks. Let us know. Please join the conversation. Jump into the comments. Let us know what you think as far as what you've read as far as spring scrimmage first spring scrimmage game. Let us know what your thoughts are in regards to that. The next subject I wanted to bring up was kind of one that I've just been kind of kicking around a little bit. You and I have talked about it a few weeks ago about the rise of BYU football over this year. They had a great second year in the Big 12. They finished 11-2 last year, 7-2 in the conference. And for a while there, they were picked to win the Big 12. They were just only 2 one-possession losses away against Kansas and Arizona State, so that would cost them their shot. But some would argue that they still deserve to be in the CFP over SMU. What I actually wanted to bring this up, and the reason why I want to talk a little bit about BYU football, is because it kind of impacts Utah football in the aspects of recruiting. Do you think the season that BYU had puts them in a better position over Utah when it comes to recruiting?
I mean, it's definitely a very interesting point. And, the recruit that brought us to this point is the highly touted tight end Brock Harris, who, just committed to the Cougars. And he had offers from Georgia, Oregon, Miami, Michigan, and obviously our Utes. This guy's a really talented player that Utah usually does a really good job recruiting tight ends. And to see him choose BYU over Utah was a little bit concerning, right? Like this is the player that Utah usually gets. Is it going to affect it in the short term? Absolutely. I think that last year BYU obviously had a much better season, and we'll see how this year goes, right? Like we're not sure how BYU is going to look this year. It's very hard to duplicate that. BYU is going to have issues. I mean, they've got some good talent. They keep going, and they had they had a double-digit win season last year, which is very impressive, especially with a quarterback that you weren't sure. He kind of had a breakout season. I really do believe that the Utes were probably a quarterback away from being in the exact same position last year, right? They had talent all over the field. They had better position players in most spots than BYU actually did. We had a better wide receiving core. We had a better offensive line, but we needed a field general last year. And you're throwing a freshman quarterback and Isaac Wilson in there and saying, just go out there and get us some wins. Go out there and just don't lose the ball game for us. But you can't do that with a freshman quarterback that's going to be like destined to make mistakes. And the Utah defense is bend, don't break, right? If they can hold you to 14, all we got to do is score 21. We couldn't make that happen. And we saw this transition kind of happen, early in the transfer portal, where we lost Keanu Tanavasu, Carson Ryan. Both those guys left the U and went down to BYU. And whether that's because they have family that live close to that area, or, Keanu Tanavasu said that his reason for leaving was there was one of the defensive end coaches there he's really close with. He has some family ties to. He wanted the opportunity to go play for him. Carson Ryan's, from the Orem area. He's got family that lives a little bit closer down there.
Yeah,
but
it's a whole 20 minutes from here to there, but okay.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think that all this takes is one successful season from the U to show that we were just a quarterback away. And I think you start seeing some of those recruits funneled back this direction. And I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if we see, Mr. Brock Harris, this newly touted guy, end up in a Utah uniform here in a year or two, because it's not going to take long. And BYU is making up, they're still a year or two probably behind Utah in the recruiting trail, but they're making up ground. They're doing a good job and they're putting together a good team. And it's just my opinion, right? They're not the quality of football team that Utah is at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to argue against the record you know, on if you're going to say who's the better team, Utah or BYU right now, you kind of have to go with the record. Like you can't just say, you know, proofs on the field, right? You want to hear my answer to this?
Absolutely.
So my answer is no, it doesn't affect the University of Utah in recruiting whatsoever. The reason behind that is, like you said, according to 24/7 Sports, the University of Utah has the ranking of recruiting at 40 in the 2025 rankings, which is actually a drop from 34 last year. BYU is at number 55. So in recruiting, 24/7 Sports does still have the University of Utah higher than BYU, which actually BYU, which is surprising, dropped down from 46. So they were actually much higher last year in recruiting as far as recruiting rankings go. While I do believe that this did help BYU in recruiting, absolutely, there's no arguing that, having an 11-2 season and, you know, just being a couple wins away from being in the college football playoff, it definitely does help them. But in the terms, does it make them the powerhouse in recruiting for the state of Utah? No, I still think that falls within Utah's realm because they, again, according to the national, you know, talking heads that know better than we do, Utah is still ranked higher than in the recruiting class.
Yeah, so Utah's ranked 35th in the transfer portal rankings. BYU is not in the top 50.
Yeah, I had to go down to 55 to see them. So they weren't in the top 50 in rankings and recruiting at all.
Yeah, so transfer portal, Utah's actually still ahead of them as well.
Yeah, and, you know, like you mentioned, Pineview High School star recruit Brock Harris is definitely going to be the one that jumped out to us that sparked this whole conversation. I do think that while this definitely did help BYU, absolutely, I'm not going to argue that at all. I don't think it impacted the University of Utah and its ability to recruit.
Yeah, BYU's at 87.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're sitting on that, guys. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments down below in regards to the University of Utah, and did the BYU season that they have affect the University of Utah's ability to recruit against BYU? Once again, folks, we'd love to hear from you. So let us know what your thoughts are down below. Drop a like on this channel. Check out the merch store. We got some University of Utah merch coming real soon, so be sure to check it out. And as always, smash that like button for your boy AJ right over there.
Do it.
Check it out. All of our Utah football content will be here on Utah Football DNA. So make sure if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, we'll think of a really cool giveaway for this one once we hit 1,000 subscribers. So
yep.